Do ghosts and spirits really exist? How many categories of ghosts are there? Why does a soul become a ghost? In case of a ghost attack, how should we protect ourselves? This is what we are going to discuss in today's episode. The idea of a ghost is very scary to many people, and the fear of seeing doors open without any apparent reason, noise being created at home without any cause, can be extremely scary. Let us try and understand what is the phenomenon behind it. Science, as yet, has not recognized the existence of disembodied beings. And yet, most people in humankind vouch to the fact of having experienced a disembodied being sometime or the other in their life. As per the Vedas, there are many categories of ghosts. The Bhoot, Preta, Pishacha, Churel, Vetala, and so on. Let us first understand the concept behind it. The soul in material existence is enmeshed in three bodies: the Sthul Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, and Karan Sharir. Gross body, subtle body, and causal body. Gross body consists of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky, that constitute the physical reality and make up our material frame. Within is the subtle body, constituted of 18 elements. The five life airs, pran, apan, vyan, saman, udan, the five working senses, the five knowledge senses, the mind, the intellect, and the ego. Then is the third causal body or Karan Sharir, that contains our sanchit karmas of endless lifetimes, and also the sanskars, the vasanas that are being carried forth. Now, when death happens, the physical body becomes no longer inhabitable for the soul. The soul then departs to find a new home, but it takes along with it two bodies, the subtle and the causal. That is how the phenomenon of transmigration takes place from birth to birth. However, sometimes certain beings do not receive a gross body in their life. So this is the disembodied being or a ghost. Why does this phenomenon happen? Let us understand. 1. If somebody committed suicide, they had the karmic destiny to bear a certain fruit of their own karmas, but they voluntarily chose to reject it prematurely. God says, you have rejected your physical body, violated the laws of creation. Now for some time you shall exist without a physical body. At other times, certain beings were extremely attached to their physical environment, to family, to material desires. And that is why after death, the soul refused to leave that place and continues to haunt it as a ghost. At other times, the soul has engaged in such perverted, degenerate, materialistic, sensual gratifications, that as a consequence of the sinful activities, God says, okay, you shall now exist as a disembodied being. Having understood some of the reasons why people become such beings, let us understand their different categories. The first is the Bhoot. In English, it would be called a ghost. Now, we fear the ghost, but factually, that ghostly existence is extremely painful for the soul, because it possesses the subtle body with the mind, and the mind carries memories, so it remembers and harbors its past desires, but has no ability to fulfill them. It sees around people eating and wishes to eat for itself, but doesn't have the facility to indulge. And that is why the existence as a bhoot is an extremely painful one. The next is the Preta, or the hungry spirit. Now, these are souls who had extreme desires in their past life for eating or other sensual gratifications, and in this life they have now been disembodied. So the Preta in its subtle form has a very grotesque shape. For example, it may have a huge stomach, very thin and long neck, and extremely small mouth, with the barest minimal abilities for sensual fulfillment at the subtle level. Now, when Shankarji is so merciful, Bhoot Bhavan Ashutosh Bhagavan, that he is willing to give shelter to such beings as well. Remember, the soul in all of these is divine like our soul. And in the 8.4 million species of life that exist in the material realm, these disembodied beings are included. God has not given up on them. God still has faith that He can promote them and elevate them. But for the time being, they are in a way His failures, the soul that has fallen to such a level. Now, we hear of Shankarji's Bharat. Ko mukhahina Vipula mukha kahu binu kar pad ko binu pad bahu Vipula nayan ko nayan vihina Rishta pushta ko atitan khina. Tulsidas Ji Maharaj describes the grotesque forms of these pretas. The third kind of disembodied beings are the Pishacha. Now, these are the dangerous and more powerful ones to be wary of. However, the Pishacha usually doesn't stay close to human existence. They choose areas of extreme negative energy, like cremation grounds and graveyards, etc. And they feed off the negative energy. They live in communities and even have their own language of communication called Pishachi. Then is the Churel. This is the feminine ghost. Sometimes when women are extremely tormented by their in-laws or their spouse, and in the process of the torture they die, then seeping with the desire for revenge, they come back as a Churel and torment in particular the male members of their previous families. Besides this is the Vetala, which can be compared in English terminology as the zombie. So the Vetals reside in cremation grounds, etc., and they take over corpses. So corpses that become enlivened, the Westerners would say zombie, we say Vetal. sections of human society around the world engage in worship of these disembodied beings. We have black magic, which is prevalent in certain portions of Africa, witchcraft in the Western world, and India, we have got the Vammargi Tantrics who are worshipping the Bhoota and Preta. Sri Krishna, however, in the Bhagavad Gita has warned us against this. He says, Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitrivrata bhutani yanti bhute jayanti madhyajino pimam. Arjun, whomever you worship, you shall attain that in your next life. Like if you have a reservoir of water at a height, you let the water fall and then rise again in pipes, it will only go up to the height of the reservoir. Likewise, if people are worshipping the Bhoot and Preta, they are susceptible to attaining that species in the next life. So be wary of all kinds of witchcraft and Vammarg Tantra, etc. However, what to do in the case of a ghost attack? Now, this is a very scary thing for most human beings. The idea that a door could just be opening on its own when you are residing in your house by yourself, or a noise could manifest in the dark without any apparent cause, can send a chill through people, particularly if they have recently seen a horror movie. So, remember one thing. Why do some of these ghost attacks happen? Well, I explained that existence in the ghost species is a very painful one. They have got material desires but no faculties to satiate them. So sometimes these ghosts and spirits, when they find the opportunity, they take over the weak Atmas, souls who have been indulging in extreme intoxication, in extremely sinful activities, and have weakened their self-sankalp ability, can be overpowered by these ghosts. However, if an instance of such a thing comes before you, remember, in 98% of the cases, it is untrue, it is merely a mental creation. What does that mean? There is no ghost or spirit. The mind has created that kind of apparition. That is why the mind needs to be strengthened through the spiritual processes of devotion, contemplation, prayer, etc. But what about those 2% cases where actually a ghost is impacting somebody? Well, in that case, remember that these beings are not to be feared, not to be worshipped, not to be fixated about. They are to be pitied. They are beings of darkness and they run away from the light of God. The more you bring God into your life, you insulate yourself from such ghosts and spirits. Let me read about it to you from my latest book, Spiritual Secrets from Hinduism. Our deepest and most comprehensive relationship in the world is with the Lord. Physically, He is so close to us that not a hair's breadth gap exists between Him and us. He is seated within us and we are seated within Him. The Kathopanishad states, Nityo Nityanam Chetanash-Chetananam Eko Bahunam. God is seated within the soul, bestowing it eternality and life. If He were to leave us for a moment, our soul would cease to exist. Therefore, God is our eternal relative. In endless lifetimes, wherever we went, God went with us. When we entered a cat's body, God accompanied us. When we went into a cow's form, He went with us there as well. Further, He is such a friend who is totally selfless. Since He is perfect and complete, He needs nothing from us. Hence, He always desires and acts for our welfare. Our eternal friend God is infinitely powerful, and He has the absolute ability to drive away by His light all darkness. Take inspiration from the story of the great saint of Vitthal Bhagwan in Pandharpur, Maharashtra, Sant Namdev. Namdev used to sing bhajans glorifying Vitthal Dev, and that won him the devotion of a flock of satsangis. At the same time, it also evoked the ire of many scholars who felt threatened by his growing fame and popularity, and they wanted to do something about it. The village used to fear a ghost that resided in a well, and the belief was that the ghost would tyrannize anyone who came close to the well. So Namdev, when he finished singing his bhajans to Rukmini Vitthal, was accosted by this scholarly group, and they said, "Look, we are thirsty and we need you to get water from that well." Namdev's congregation of devotees warned him, "It is very dangerous due to the presence of the ghost. Please do not." Now the confronting group challenged, "If you have faith in Vitthal, then why are you scared?" Namdev took it as a matter of test of the power of Vitthal Bhagwan. Chanting the names of God, he came to the well. The story says that the ghost residing within spoke up and said, "Don't you dare throw a bucket or I will pull you in, I will kill you." Now look at Namdev's response. In his devotion, he was seeing divinity in everything, including that spirit, the disembodied being. And he said, "Oh Vitthal Bhagwan, you have come to me in so many ways till now as a Bahurupya, somebody who comes in a variety of forms. Today, you are choosing to come to me in the manner of a ghost. I will not be befooled." The ghost kept screaming. Namdev kept seeing the divine even there. And the story says, finally Vishnu Bhagavan manifested and said, "I am extremely pleased by your devotion." So in this human life, we are not to be fixated by these disembodied beings, the Bhoota, Preta, Pishacha, Churel, etc. Nor are we to fear them unnecessarily, and no question of worshipping them. It is best to ignore them. The Vedas do explain their existence, but ask us not to spend time on these matters, and instead to walk the path of light and solidify our eternal relationship with the Supreme Divine Personality. For that is the purpose of our life. We shall continue this discussion on spiritual secrets from Hinduism as we now move on to topics such as the nature of the Supreme, divine grace, the process and concept of surrender, the paths of karma, gyan, bhakti, the process of sadhana, and how to engage in meditation.